Welcome, everyone. I am so excited about today's topic. We are going to be talking about something very near and dear to my heart with someone that's very near and dear to my heart. So it's just a great day for me to share this with Joanne Juren. We're going to be talking about Homeschooling 101. And during this time, a lot of people are looking into homeschooling. A lot of people are starting to shift to homeschooling. And I will say there can be a lot of confusion wrapped around that, and also some frustration, some intrepidation. There can be a lot of emotions involved in that. So today, Joanne's going to help us sort of clear the air about that and have some really good definition of what it is and what it isn't, because homeschooling is not schooling at home. So if you have been schooling at home, that's not homeschooling. So today, Joanne's going to talk to us about that and give us some resources. So I know that you're going to enjoy this. Be sure and take some notes if you like. You'll also know how to contact Joanne. I'll leave all the information and things that she's talking about in the links, so you don't have to worry about in case you forget something. So I would like to introduce Joanne Juren now. She is an amazing woman. She says that she is the owner of the National Homeschool Honor Society and the Science Honor Society. But I would like to say that if I'm correct in this, you saw the need for homeschoolers, that they did not have an honor society like the National Honor Society. And you said, I'm going to do something about this. You put this together and you made it happen.
Yes.
Yes, I know that. So that's who this woman is. She's just incredible. She operates a university university style model program, which provides like academic courses, elective courses. It's to Houston area homeschoolers. So if you are in the Houston area, I'm going to leave that information also so you can find out about that. Full disclosure, my daughter attended school there, my son-in-law attended classes there, and I have a lot of clients that do as well. So I know the value in what Joanne is offering there. So if you are interested in looking further into that, I'll give you the information how to do that. So here we are, Joanne Juren and Homeschooling 101. Thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you, Renee. It's delightful to be with you, and I appreciate all of you who are watching. And hopefully I can enlighten the idea of homeschooling to where maybe you can join the rest of us who are homeschoolers, knowing that you too can homeschool with great success. Let me first start with a definition of homeschooling. Renee has kind of touched on this. Homeschooling is where the parent is going to be totally in charge of the child's education. So by saying that, you're going to become the principal, you're going to be the bus lady, you're going to be the cafeteria lady, and you're also going to be the janitor, because you are going to have to do everything that the school normally did for your child. So you're going to set out the curriculum, you're going to identify your goals and what you want to achieve. You're actually going to do the day-to-day teaching or the supervision of the teaching. And many of us do go out to tutors. Typical public school child takes dance lessons, takes piano lessons. So homeschoolers do that same thing. We're in scouting, we're in 4-H. We do a lot of things, but sometimes we just can't teach chemistry. So we actually hire a chemistry teacher who, number one, can get the chemicals, and number two, has the expertise to use them so they don't blow up the house. And so a lot of us are going to get together in groups to do homeschooling activities. My program is a university model school. I used to be a public school teacher and a principal, and I've been a college administrator, but my best job was in homeschool mom. But when my kids needed a biology lab to dissect a cat, we had a cat at home, Renee, and we figured she probably would not approve. So kiddingly enough, I started with the college, and I offered my classes through the college, and they helped me recruit my first teachers. But today we've gone into a large program that offers 18 honors classes. We have pre-K 3 through 12th grade, but the commonality is that all of these parents are homeschoolers. Under Texas law, they're considered private schools. They will be responsible for the transcript, and then at the end of the 12th grade year, or when the child finishes the goals set out by the parent, they will graduate their children and they will sign the diploma, sign the transcript. So if you are a public school student, as Renee said, doing school at home under the auspices of the school district, you are doing public schooling at home. Homeschooling takes the overriding agencies out of the picture, and you are totally responsible. Now, you might ask, how does that work, and is that legitimate? So both of my sons were homeschooled from 9 years old through high school. Both of them got lots of scholarship money for college, so that was not an issue. They both had jobs like many high schoolers do to save money to pay for things, and they're both attorneys today. So we did something wrong that they're both attorneys, but you know, that's always my joke, that you know, you can be successful without creating a couple of attorneys. So what would be the first thing I would tell you if you live in California, or you live in New York, or you live in Florida, or you live in Wisconsin? What you should do is contact Homeschool Legal Defense Association, and Renee will give you that address in her links. But this is our nationwide organization that was started many years ago to protect the rights of homeschoolers and to fight for goals and things that we felt were very important for us to continue to homeschool in all 50 states. So today, HSLDA is integral in keeping all 50 states apprised of what's going on nationally. But what we do with HSLDA, you can go to their website and you can find out what are the laws for your state. Now in Texas, homeschooling is basically unregulated, but states like New York and Pennsylvania, Colorado, they will have different guidelines for you to follow, kind of the hoops for you to have to jump through and able to homeschool. So I would start first with finding out what are the laws for my state. Now, many of you also could Google California state organizations, and the state organizations will probably also provide this information to you. Now, in Texas, you have to teach several things. The first thing you have to do, you actually have to really homeschool. So that means that you will set up a schedule. It doesn't have to be September through May. You could homeschool all summer. You could homeschool during the Christmas time. You can homeschool at night. You can homeschool on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So you can pick out your schedule. You don't even have to, under Texas law, we have to have 180 days for public school students. If you can get your schooling done faster, you can do that. But the whole law for Texas just says you really do have to homeschool. Texas law says that the homeschooling should be visual. So you can use a computer because it has words. You can use a textbook, workbooks. You can create your own curriculum. You can purchase your own curriculum. There is a really good book by a lady whose name is Kathy Duffy, D-U-F-F-Y. Kathy has a great curriculum guide. She has a wonderful webpage. So if you just Google Kathy with a C, Duffy, you can get a great link to most of the traditional curriculums and many of the new ones that are digital and available online today. So I really call her my Bible of homeschooling. So if you're new, once you find out the laws for your state, and then you are ready to actually start looking at how to homeschool and what to use, Kathy Duffy is a great resource. So
and I'll put the link, I'll put those links in too. Yeah.
So in Texas, you have to have a real homeschool setup. You have to use a visual curriculum, and then you teach basically reading, writing, spelling, arithmetic, and good citizenship. Now, good citizenship is kind of a misnomer. Usually that just refers to history, government, all of the things that we would want to teach children so that they can become a good and productive citizen. Vote, make good decisions, know what their worldview is so that when they go into the voting booth, they will understand how they should vote. So these are the things that Texas requires. They don't require science, but we live in a scientific time, and so I know very few homeschoolers who would not teach science. Now, your state will be different. So it will have sometimes similar requirements as Texas. Others may require you to register with your state. They require homeschooling testing every year. They may even send a master teacher to come visit your home. And so you just have to know what your state requires. But I will tell you, homeschooling is legal in all 50 states. All 50 states have great success stories with students who go on to earn bachelor's, master's, and doctorates in college. We've had 47 students who have come through my university model program since 1997 who have earned a doctorate. And so y'all, we have a small program. We graduate 23 to 40 students every year. And to think that many, I used to track master's degree, Renee, and so many were getting master's degrees. Some were getting 2 that I just had to quit with master's.
Wow. Yeah.
But isn't that exciting to think that homeschoolers are able to get doctorates? Some of my students are doctors, they're physical therapists. Others have doctorates in chemistry. One teaches at a local university. In fact, 2 of them now teach at local universities. So they tell my students when they're doing dual credit to come and say hi to Mrs. Juren. And so that's very exciting to see that homeschooling does work.
Absolutely, it does. And I know that, and I incorporate with my life coaching also just my years of experience with doing college applications, editing college essays. I kind of bring that to the mix in my practice. And so I know I've just done some recently and reviewed, and there is that line under there. Are you homeschooled? It says to put in there what high school did you attend? If you put homeschool, they say put this. It's very clear that they have embraced homeschoolers as applying to college. And I've heard in the past, I mean, years ago, I heard this, and you can clarify this or not, but I've heard that universities used to like actively recruit homeschoolers because why? Because they're learners. They can learn. They're self-starters. They have to be accountable on a whole nother level. They can, there's no cap there. If you have a 10th grader that's ready for 12th grade math, go for it, sister. They can go that 12th grade math. And so there is this beauty behind teaching to the level of your student, and also teaching, this is so important for me because I'm a visual learner with a little auditory, teaching to the learning mode, I guess it's the learning modality of your student. So if that person is highly visual, then you pick the curriculum that's based on that. Now in the traditional public school system, wow, if your learning modality is not what's presented there, which is kind of a cookie cutter template, that student could have a really hard time, even though they're intellectually capable. That can be really, really hard. I know my own husband is dyslexic, and he just hated school in high school, and he's very, very smart, and he struggled with that. But until someone told him, he realized, he kind of quit beating himself up over it. It's like, oh, that's why I hated high school. That's why it was so hard, because it just didn't work in the way that he needed to learn.
Right. And so when you homeschool, after you look at the law, after you get your information from the various organizations that exist to give support to homeschoolers, then you have to sit down with your family, and it should be a family decision to homeschool. So you sit down with your family, and then you think with your husband or wife or your partner, and you decide, what do we need to do to get started? So you can still go to Walmart and buy all your school supplies, and you can still buy the kids cute clothes to wear, or maybe pajamas. We learned early on that you could do school in your pajamas, and then we can get dressed a little bit later. So what do you need? Do you need a schoolhouse? No. Do you need a room that is dedicated to be your homeschool room? It's a nice thing if you have room, but you can do homeschooling at your kitchen table. You could do it at a card table. So you can just use any place. My kids love to do school out in the backyard. We had a barbecue table, so we would just go out there and do school. It gave us all a chance to be out in the fresh air, and it just created a different environment. So you can technically do homeschooling anywhere. We went to all 50 states while our boys were in school. And so we took our motorhome, our travel trailers, and we took our homeschooling with us. So it was a great adventure for long field trips and everything. Handwriting didn't look good in the motorhome, but who cared about that? So you just figure out, what does your family need? Every family needs something different. So don't listen to what the Joneses are doing and feel like you have to copy them. Listen to what other people are doing, and then you pick and choose the things that are best out of all of those suggestions that will work for you. And one real good piece of advice I'll give to new homeschoolers is that if you decide on a curriculum and then later you find that that curriculum doesn't work for you, go ahead and get rid of it.
Yes.
I know you spent money on it, but you're in a exploration mode right now because you're looking to see where your kids are in learning. COVID has put a lot of children's almost 4 or 5 months behind already. And depending on how public schools are starting right now, we could have a whole set of kids who really probably need to repeat the previous grade. So you need to backtrack right now and pick up some of these skills that maybe your children missed over the summer, last spring. And so take some time to figure out where your children are. There are placement tests that you can buy from many of the curriculums or even find for free. And so once you figure out what your children need, where they are, don't be afraid to say, okay, I thought this was going to work. This doesn't work. So I'm going to sell it to somebody and I'm going to go ahead and switch. Because y'all, even as an educator who had taught and been a principal for many years, I made mistakes with my kids. One time we were using a particular textbook for literature and I was an English teacher. And I thought, Joanne, if you're bored with this, you can imagine what 2 teenage boys are. But that little spark right there started me on my journey toward classical education. And today my business is a classical high school. And so God used that minute of me having to make an admission that I was wrong with what I chose. And I needed to make a change, and look where he took us. And the boys really enjoyed so much of what we did because the history timeline drove all the literature. And so it just made it a lot more interesting. And so let me talk a little bit about curriculum. There are so many things out there today.
Unbelievable. Way more than there used to be years ago when my daughter was little. Yeah.
We had the 3 big ones, Bob Jones, Abeka, and Alpha Mega years ago. And if you get the Kathy Duffy curriculum book, she will tell you very quickly that there are so many things today that fit our needs better than the typical Christian school textbooks that were available at the beginning. And with 25 years of homeschooling becoming more and more popular, there are many people like Renee and like myself who homeschool, who now are creating not only businesses, but we're creating curriculum. And so there are so many choices today that you can look at all of these very enterprising people and you can find the curriculum that will meet your child.
Absolutely. And let's speak to also people that homeschooling really started out to me as a predominantly a thing that predominantly that Christians did.
Yes.
So, but it is not just for Christians, and there is curriculum out there that is not faith-based. So, can you speak to that a little bit?
So, when we first started, as Renee said, so many people were Christian, and they came to it for religious reasons. But today, there are associations of Black homeschoolers, Islamic homeschoolers, secular homeschoolers. Y'all, there's some that are just for people who want to be relaxed as a homeschooler, the Charlotte Mason method. So there's just a method for everybody from the high achiever who is a type A personality to the kind of hippie homeschooler. There's just everything in between. So you will not find a problem if you live in a big city or near a medium-sized city for support groups and groups where you can do field trips with. You'll just be able to get in with like-minded people. Some people belong to 3 or 4 co-ops or 3 or 4 support groups because they get something different out of each one. So don't be afraid to try things.
Can you talk about, can I pause you a second? You talk about what a co-op is, because they might not know what a co-op is.
So when you homeschool, you can do it all yourself in the privacy of your own home. You can buy your own curriculum, set up all your guides, do everything on your own. But many of us realize that our children enjoy getting out and having activities besides just scouts, etc. And so we will group together and form a co-op. Many co-ops are for field trips. And so that is the reason, socialization, field trips, having a good time with just like-minded people. Other co-ops will offer classes. And so you may have to teach a class for your children to attend the co-op. So it's a trade-off. So I can teach physics, you can teach preschool. So my little ones can go to your preschool, your high schooler can come to me for physics. So we've learned to correlate and to coordinate and to provide services like that. Then you have things like classical conversations. They hire a tutor, and the tutor will work with the families in classical conversations. Then you look at home education partnership, my program. We're a large university model program. We've been in existence now, Renee, believe it or not, for 23 years.
Wow.
So we offer 18 honors classes. I run it as the principal, and my teachers work for me. And so they are directed and supervised by me. Mm-hmm. But I am a big picture person, so I hire people because they have expertise. So we are on the high end of the academics, but there's all different kinds of choices. There's a lot of online choices today, Renee. Yes. So Keystone High School, University of
Texas Tech
has a huge program. There are just lots of publishers like Becca and Bob Jones and Alpha Omega actually have academies themselves. So you can just look through all of these and you can find things that you will like. So you don't just have to sit at home. I remember years ago, our local paper had a little cartoon, and it was a little child looking out the kitchen window and said, homeschool child. Well, that made me mad because we were so active that a friend of mine and I used to call it car schooling because we were in the car so much going places. So our children have lots of opportunities today. And so you can find things that will make the perfect homeschool for your children. And if it's not perfect and you feel like there's something wrong with it, get rid of it and try something else.
And what it is as I hear you speaking, and one of the beauties of homeschooling really is to have more time with your kids, yes. More time with your teenagers. And the other thing is, to me, it's almost the epitome of freedom. Yes. It is absolute freedom. And like you said, you can pick when you school, where you school, how you school, as long as it's within alignment of your state regulations, your curriculum, everything. And it's kind of like with the curriculum you were talking about, get rid of it. It's sort of like what I tell my teenagers, like when they're going off to college, we're just going to pick a major. And if that doesn't work, just change your major. It's not going to ruin your life. No one's going to look down on you for that. Just like, oh, I don't want to be an architect, I want to do English. And you just change your major. So it's like that for curriculum. And it's not a failure on the part of a parent. It just means that it's not resonating with what your teenager is needing to learn or how they learn. And that's perfectly okay. Yes. And I want to kind of talk about, when you talked about the co-op and the activity. Mm-hmm. So there's sort of this, and I guess it's still out there, is this whole thing about socialization and homeschooling. And those of us who have been involved in homeschooling, work with homeschoolers, that is like a big guttural laugh for us when we hear that now. Because I will tell you, with all my clients who are homeschooled, they are busy, busy, busy. And their schedules are full of all kinds of things in addition to the academics. And there are homeschool, if you want to stick with the homeschooling group, there are homeschool sports leagues, there are homeschool dance companies, there are homeschool choirs. There's all kinds of things that you can be in with other homeschools that are extracurricular, that actually count on the college resume, so to speak. And so that is an absolute non-issue. It is a non-issue. And I will tell you that I have noticed a very distinct difference. And it was an aha moment for me not that long ago. And I remember going downstairs to my husband, I was like, oh my goodness, there's such a difference between the homeschoolers and the public school students. And I've had a mix. I did private school, I did public school. So I personally did both. My daughter's done private and homeschooling. And so I feel like I can kind of speak on levels. And just like you did public and then homeschooling. And so, but I said, there's just a difference, and I couldn't put my finger on it. But the socialization that they're getting in a public school, and I'm talking about the socialization, not the academics. I'm not trying to, diss public school or whatever, but I'm just saying that the peer pressure and this phrase gets all over me, the friend group, the friend groups, and what they're dealing with, that the collective, I see as really very adversarial to, and this is both male and female. 100% of my clients over the years, public school, they always have a small element or a large element of what I'm talking about. And the homeschoolers do not. And these are homeschoolers who have different family lives, different socioeconomic, different curriculums, different activities, but they all have this thread that runs through them that is not the same as what I'm seeing in the public school kids.
My favorite example is that in public school, we tend to group people because of, we save money, save time, we can have big class for one teacher. We tend to put children in groups by age. So what is the worst kind of socialization? They have 35 fourth graders in a room. I love Montessori because Montessori is where my kids went when they were little. So
mine too, yeah.
You had 6 first graders who were still helping the little 3-year-olds go potty so they could learn how to do those kind of things. And so you have multiple ages. And that's the beauty of homeschooling. Renee, some homeschool families have 1 child, many have 2 or more. And so when you have multiple children, your children are all doing school together. So there's a high schooler sitting there with a 7th grader, sitting there with a 6th grader and a 4th grader. And so those little children can look up to that big person, and then that big person helps to help mom, maybe with lunch, maybe with teaching math. So there's just such an interpersonal relationship with all of the age groups. And even in our co-ops and in all of our activities, you're going to have high schoolers, they're on the same day for sports as the young ones. So they're all playing with each other. Even our sports associations, Renee, are built so that we have basketball for little ones all the way through the 5A type star basketball players. And they're all being coached and having their schedules all being meshed. And so the kids just get so much more socialization. But the real secret is that our children are around adults more. And so by being around other adults on a smaller ratio of a student to the adult, they learn how to talk to adults, how
absolutely
to deal with adults, how to be polite and courteous. And they're also used to other adults, maybe offering them mentoring and maybe even correction when they do something. So I find that in small classes, when you go to co-op, as opposed to big institutional classes, even in private schools, that this really creates a more comfortable feeling with many of our homeschoolers being around adults. And I know my kids got compliments, Renee, from, of all people, college professors.
Yeah,
wow. See the difference in your child. I even had one of my son's college professors came over one day to my school and he said, I want this, what you gave to your kids.
Yeah.
So he started homeschooling and he was one of my biggest supporters. But it's just a different philosophy. What is the purpose of public school is to give a general education to the whole population. But what is the purpose of homeschooling? You are the child's first teacher. You have given your child their spiritual, their political, their family values. And this is where you can continue to do that all the way through high school. And when you have a high schooler, kind of think of it as a project. You've worked with this child all of his or her life. High school is the most critical time to homeschool, partly because of all the peer pressures and things you talked about. But you're putting the finishing touches on this product, this child that you've nurtured all the way through so that you can share him then with the world, and you lose. You lose because you're no longer with them all the time, but you know that what you have given them has instilled with them these values, from their spirituality to their political to their family. And it's just such a blessing to see your children grow up and to become good, productive citizens and good people, and to know that you are very instrumental in doing that yourself. You didn't form them out to other people to do where you couldn't control the influences. And girl, our kids don't have problems in college like the average kid does. They vote on a larger basis. They have fewer TVs, and they have more computers in their home. And so there's just so many statistics that do support that homeschooling works, and it works very well.
And one of the keys to success too is, and I just thought of this, is like within my coaching practice, is the thing that makes coaching so powerful is the accountability. So my clients are accountability. I teach them how to be accountable not only to themselves, but they're accountable to me. And in homeschooling, on that same note, on homeschooling, they're accountable to the parents, whether the parent is literally the teenager teaching them a certain course, or they're getting support and going to your program or whatever. Or, hybrids are very important. I think hybrids are awesome. If you do a hybrid thing, a lot of my clients are kind of hybrid taught. And so, but when the accountability is towards, let's just say when it's outsourced from the home, it's a smaller class. Your teacher knows that you've shown up. Your teacher knows that you've done it, and your peers have known that you've done it or not. So there's a level of accountability there, but then also to your parents, because your mom is in charge of your transcript.
Yes.
And your grades. And I don't want the parents to micromanage. Have you done this? Have you done this? But you have a heightened level of awareness as when you send your teen to a public high school, they're kind of accountable to the teacher, but not to the level. And probably, I don't know how it works now, but probably maybe unless you share it, no one knows if you've done your work or your grade or whatever. So you can kind of hide behind that.
Yes.
And kind of, I just see that there's that difference there, with that accountability,
Well,
so
in
that's very
business, we
powerful.
often talk about removing the middleman so that, you can buy directly from the car company like Tesla does.
Right.
And so think
Right.
about homeschooling. You're removing the middle people. Here's your end goal is to be successful. And so you're removing all of the other people out of that equation, and the family is actually responsible for this success.
Right. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So what is something that I'm having some weird computer things? Can you see any of that or no? We're
It's
good.
a little jumpy, just a
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Something's popping around. So what is something that you actually have a little freebie for our parents?
Yes.
And so what is something that you have to offer them?
I'm going to give you a homeschooling 101 checklist, and it will go over some of the basic things we talked about today, so that if you're a brand new homeschooler, or if you're just thinking about homeschooling, you'll have this little checklist, and you'll know to start with your state and then what to do next to get started homeschooling. And then anytime you need to, if you would like to go visit our school webpage, all of our books that we use are listed. And so you can see what I think are some of the best books out on the market. So you'll get my contact information from Renee.
Okay, that's great. So I'll put that down. And then we don't want parents to just like go, oh, that's interesting, and not take action. Because
Right.
Action is really what is the powerful thing that moves you forward to help them make the decision, yes or no. And so what is something that you would want the parents to do, like right now, if they're thinking about homeschooling within the next 24, 48 hours?
Well, if you and your family are seriously thinking about homeschooling, the one thing I want you to do to get started is to go ahead and call HSLDA or go visit their website so that you can find out what the law is for homeschooling in your state. And once you know that, then you'll start making some contacts and you'll be off to the races.
Okay, and I'll put that link in there as well. So this has been very informative. I appreciate this, and I think that we have really kind of put everything out there in terms of in an authentic way, not to sugarcoat, the good, the bad, the ugly, and whatever. So it's going to give parents the information to start with and know where to go. And just to kind of reiterate, you said that, you know, they need to know where the law, what the law is.
What the law is.
And then I would say they need to know what they can have some testing and what their child actually, then they'll know the courses that they're supposed to take in order to officially graduate from that state. And then they go, okay, so I know what the law is. I know what the courses are. Now I'm going to dive into the curriculum. And you said that there's so much out there. They can look at your website. They can look at Kathy Duffy's website. I'll put the link below. And then they can make some choices and just start with it and know that they can homeschool anywhere, anytime. There's no hard and fast rules about that for the most part within every state. It is legal in all of the states. And so, and if something doesn't work, just throw it out and get something else. And it's okay to do that mid-semester. I know I've had clients whose parents are like, this isn't working. They stop that and they move something else in with no judgment, just moving forward. There's a lot of support out there. There's the co-ops, there's plenty to do in terms of filling the social and the extracurricular. And also I know that I'm a member of quite a few private homeschool mom groups that are huge, that are national. And people go, what curriculum do you use to teach? And there may be 300 replies there. So I would encourage people to get in some of those Facebook groups and just ask questions.
Absolutely.
To find out what they're wanting to do. So I will put your website information there and how to contact you. So thank you so much for being here. This has been wonderful. I hope that this has been immensely helpful to parents and ease some of that feeling of overwhelm, because it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It's just step by step, and there's a ton of support there. You're not in this alone at all. So thank you again, Joanne. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.